Chapter 4. The Shadow Killer and New Friends. The silver robot was still trying to get to Sam, but its black painted companion was still holding on to it with little trouble. Sam was looking at the two new robots, and his eyes were wide with fear, realization, and guilt. Lila, still frozen in fear, was looking around, seeking answers. Saberclaw was grasping the wall of the cave, trying not to fall over even though her head was throbbing and her conscience was slipping away. "How could you?" the silver robot asked Sam as it shook out of the other robot's arms and calmed down. It refused to make eye contact with the scientist. Sam spoke with guilt. "I was young and stupid and didn't know what to do with you." The robot writhed in its own self-pity, "But you did. And we didn't forget." "What is going on?" Lila screamed and looked at the new robots with fear as she broke free from her trance. Sam reached over and held his daughter close. "It's all right, Lee. They won't hurt you." The black robot's voice boomed through the dark cave. "Why shouldn't we? You owe us your life. It's just us letting you live." Saberclaw snarled from behind the robots as she struggled to stand. "You won't be killing anyone today." She lunged at the black robot. It grabbed her by the neck and lifted her up into the air. "This one's annoying. Should I kill her?" it asked its partner with a smug smile. "No. She may be young and unfocused, but she fights well. She didn't number my arm. She could also help us navigate this planet." Saberclaw was clawing at her captor's arm and kicking her legs, trying to break free. She didn't need a breath, so the hold wasn't hurting her, but she couldn't fight or do anything while the robot held her. The black robot let go of her, and she fell to the ground. She stood up and bared her teeth at the two robots. She huffed and walked over to Sam. "Are these two the source of the signal?" Saberclaw asked through gritted teeth as she gestured towards the two robots. "No. Actually, it says that the signal is still close, but it's not them." His words echoed a little off of the cave walls. Saberclaw looked at the robots, then sighed. "Fine then. My name is Saberclaw, and I am the current defender of this planet. I will defend the humans at all cost, even if that means killing the attackers." She reached out to shake the black robot's hand, but made direct eye contact with it. "To be specific, I would love to neutralize any and all threats." The silver robot understood her threat and stepped forward, growling back, saying, "We mean no harm, Saberclaw. Anyway, I am Silver Spot, the most experienced medic you will probably ever meet." Silver Spot smirked. Silver Spot's voice suggested she was considered female, but she was as fierce as any male would be. Her cohort also spoke up. "My name is Iron Stripe, and I am very skilled in the art of war. I would be happy to train you and help you harness that warrior spirit of yours, Saberclaw." His voice was masculine, so Saberclaw assumed he was male as he showed a soft smile. "Now that all introductions have been made, we have a signal to find," Sam said as he jumped down from the rock, landing on the hard, stone floor of the cave. He turned around and looked up at his daughter, who was scanning the rock. It was obvious that she was a little nervous about jumping from such a height. Her father put up his hands, signaling for Lila to jump into his arms, and she did. He caught her perfectly and hugged her before setting her down. "Not all of the introductions have been made, Sam Carrolley," Silver Spot said, as she kneeled down to get a good look at Lila. Lila jumped backwards as Silver Spot got closer to her and wrinkled her nose in defense. "I am Lila Carrolley, and Sam is my dad. You mess with him, you mess with me." "Got it." She pointed a finger at Silver Spot while taking a slightly nervous step toward the large robot. Silver Spot ignored Lila's threat and turned her head toward Sam. "So, you had a daughter after getting rid of us?" "Well, she looks like you, but she has her mother's spirit. That is, her mother is Catherine, right?" Sam nodded and rolled his eyes. "Seriously, we should be going. There's a possible threat at large somewhere within this cave." Seconds after Sam said that, his phone started buzzing wildly. The signal tracker on his phone was saying that the alien was within feet of them. As Sam read the notifications of this, his face went from calm to confused to stressed to panicked in seconds. Saberclaw noticed this and immediately got into battle position. Out of instinct, Silver Spot and Iron Stripe did the same. Without making a sound, Iron Stripe glanced to his side and saw it. It was a long, snake-like object that moved almost silently. He saw its metal scales pulse and move as it slithered across the stone out from behind a rock. It had bright purple eyes and a large hood behind its head. Ironstripe knew exactly what this reptilian machine was and shouted, "There!" Silverspot and Saberclaw turned as well and started blasting it. Apparently, Ironstripe and Silverspot had blasters just like Saberclaw did. The metal snake had no legs, but managed to lift its head up roughly 5 feet. It opened its mouth and hissed, revealing its 2 very long fangs. It was all a blur for the humans. They saw the mechanical reptile and froze with fear. In Lila's perspective, she was so frightened all the sound was drowned out by her own heart's pounding. She saw Ironstripe shout something she didn't hear. She saw all 3 of the robots yelling and firing their blasters that released balls of fiery plasma that glowed and exploded upon whatever they hit. It was so bright with the plasma blast going off that everything was just a bright light in Lila's eyes. Then everything stopped. All of the blasts had ceased, and the snake was on the ground, in a new spot than when it was first spotted, but it had obviously been hit by 1 or more of the blasts and perished instantly. Lila and her father were panting, trying to calm themselves. Ironstripe seemed happy the thing was dead, but Silverspot looked troubled. "Is everyone all right?" she asked with wide eyes. "Was anyone bit?" Silverspot looked around. Everyone was still standing upright, and she was about to let herself relax when Saberclaw spoke. "Ugh, Silverspot, I don't think that was there before." Saberclaw turned her heel to reveal 2 puncture wounds that were right beside each other. "No." Ironstripe trailed off as he realized the severity of the situation. Saberclaw looked at her wound on the side of her foot, then looked back up at Silverspot. Saberclaw's vision was fading a little now, as well as the pain in the leg that was bitten. She stumbled over and grasped the wall of the cave. Silverspot ran over to Saberclaw and grabbed her just before she collapsed. Silverspot turned her head to Ironstripe as she held Saberclaw. "Ironstripe, get over here. She is too heavy for me to lift on my own, and I need to get her propped up against that boulder over there immediately." Silverspot yelled at Ironstripe as he rushed over and picked up Saberclaw. She was too weak to walk on her own, and blue-green liquid began to trickle out of the bite. "What's going on?" Lila asked as she and her father ran over to the boulder where Ironstripe was now placing Saberclaw. He put her down gently, and she adjusted herself slightly into a sitting-up position. "Wow, that does not look normal at all," Saberclaw said weakly, but with a slight chuckle as she glanced at her leg, tried to lighten the mood as Silverspot examined it. Saberclaw's leg now had little black lines that began at the bite mark and faded as they ran up her leg. Silverspot's face was grim as she answered Lila, without looking away from the wound. "That mechanical reptile is known as the Shadow Killer. It waits in the shadows until its target turns their back, and then it leaps out and bites them, thus giving it its name. It is programmed to not stop until it is either destroyed or it kills its target. It also will not attack anyone but its target, so Rebay specifically commanded it to kill Saberclaw. But why is the question?" Silverspot pondered as she now examined Saberclaw's eyes. "She is losing her consciousness. We don't have much time before the venom kills her." Silverspot stood up, turned around, and looked Lila in the eyes. "Look, Lila, that snake has the deadliest venom in the universe. It will kill Saberclaw within the hour if we don't hurry and find the anti-venom." Silverspot turned back around and looked at Ironstripe, who was holding Saberclaw's arm tightly, helping her balance her torso up against the rock. He looked up at Silverspot and said, "This is tragic, but it is what it is. The venom will kill Saberclaw, and there is nothing we can do about it." He seemed sympathetic, but there was something else in his voice. It seemed dismissive, like he just wanted the venom to do its job already. "Not if I have anything to do with it," Silverspot said confidently. "Humans, stay here with Saberclaw. Ironstripe, you're with me. There is a large medical kit in our escape pod. It may have some anti-venom in it." Her face was determined as she focused on the trail of oil-like liquid that led into one of the tunnels. She started walking with speed, and Ironstripe quickly got up and followed her. As soon as the 2 had disappeared into the tunnel, Lila grabbed Saberclaw's finger. "You'll be okay. Saber, I just know it." Lila was only large enough to hug Saberclaw's finger, and tears started rolling down her cheeks. Saberclaw looked down at the human who was desperately clinging to her and the girl's father, who was standing a small distance away. His face turned toward the floor as he tried to conceal his quivering lip. Even though they had only been together for a few days, the humans had grown attached to Saberclaw. She looked down at her leg and saw the lines now took up majority of her leg. Saberclaw grimaced from the pain in her leg, but managed to sit up straighter. "You're right, Lila. I will be okay. You can't get rid of me that easily." Saberclaw smiled at Lila before letting her head fall to the side as she sighed. "You know, Lila, this venom stuff really is not going to go easy on me. And I feel like you know what will happen if Silverspot can't find the anti-venom," Saberclaw said with more seriousness than she thought she could muster. Lila felt the tears coming again, and she looked at her sneakers. "Yeah, but I won't let it come to that." "Lila," Saberclaw said weakly. "I won't let you die," she exclaimed. "But Lila," Saberclaw was interrupted by Lila's cry. "No. Lila, let me talk while I still can, all right?" Saberclaw said, with a little more tone in her voice. Lila went silent, but still sniffled. "Lila, I would give my life for you and your dad. And if I don't make it out of this cave, but Silverspot and Ironstripe do, I want them to take my place. And if they don't want to protect you, your family, and the world from those alien monsters." Saberclaw stopped and realized that she was struggling to keep her eyes open, and she now had to put a lot of effort into speaking. However, she knew Lila needed to hear what she had to say. "Then I want you to grab them by their wings and tell them that you will find a way to beat them up if they don't, all right?" Lila looked at Saberclaw's tired eyes and chuckled through her sobs as she answered, "I will." Saberclaw's vision blurred as her head twitched. The corners of her vision were black, and they were closing in. She felt her body go limp and her head fall backward against a rock. She managed to look at her leg again and saw her entire leg was covered in the small lines. Pain began to rip through her body as she cried out from it. Lila screamed Saberclaw's name as she lost the ability to balance herself anymore. Saberclaw fell over onto the cave's floor. Mr. Carolee rushed over to his creation and looked at Saberclaw's halfway shut optics. The once strong glow of them was now flickering along with Saber's life force. The venom had now reached her core and was eating away at her vital mechanics. Her face was still scrunched as she groaned from the pain. Lila yelled at Saberclaw in protest as she fought her father that was holding her back. Saberclaw's head was filled with nothing but pain and scrambled thoughts. However, she managed to see Lila fighting her father and crying for Saberclaw to stay. Saberclaw used all of her remaining strength to move her hand closer to Lila. Lila finally managed to break free from her father's grasp and grabbed Saberclaw's finger again. Sam ran up to Saberclaw's head and kneeled in front of her eyes. "Saberclaw, look at me. Hang on just a little longer," he said as he panted slightly as he came up with maybe 100 plans to save her, but he rejected all of them. Saberclaw wanted to tell the humans that everything would be okay, or even to tell them how much the venom was hurting her, but she was too weak. All she could do was groan and yell from the pain. Then, all the pain stopped. Her vision went black and everything felt cold. She couldn't think anymore, and she lost all consciousness. Lila felt Saberclaw's finger go limp and fall out her arms. She watched as her best friend's hand relaxed on the stone. Lila knew what had happened, but she couldn't believe it. It felt like something had just been ripped out of her. Her whole world had just shattered in one moment. Lila fell to the ground and planted her face against Saberclaw's cold, metal hand. Sam hugged his daughter and held her as she cried. Then they heard loud footsteps. Lila and Sam looked up and saw Silverspot running out from the tunnel and Ironstripe not far behind. Silverspot rushed over to Saberclaw's body with a bot-sized syringe and stabbed it into Saberclaw's puncture wound on her heel. Silverspot looked up at Lila as the last bit of the liquid inside the syringe was injected into Saberclaw. The silver robot hesitated for a minute when she saw Saberclaw's pained, limp expression. She felt the guilt of failure creep in as she slowly pulled the empty syringe away from Saberclaw's wound. "How long has she been?" Silverspot trailed off, knowing she didn't have to and probably shouldn't finish her question. "A few seconds," Sam answered. Iron Stripe pressed his metal lips together and looked at Saberclaw's empty eyes. Silver Spot stood up, walked over to the cave wall, and punched it as hard as she could. It cracked under the force as she yelled with frustration. 42 minutes. That's all the time I took. I looked for the anti-venom as fast as I could. She punched the wall a second time, and it cracked more. She paused, lowered her head, and walked back over to Saberclaw's body. Silver Spot kneeled down and touched Saberclaw's body gently as she remembered something. I had a friend once. They were bitten by the Shadow Killer too. No one deserves to die like that, let alone someone as young and innocent as Saberclaw, she said as she clenched her jaw. Silver Spot hadn't known Saberclaw for very long, but she could tell from the short encounter that she was a young robot that probably hadn't even experienced very much yet. Saberclaw lay on the floor. Her body was limp and lifeless, and her eyes were not closed, but no longer green. They were gray and had lost their vibrant glow. However, something sparked inside them, and her hand twitched. Lila noticed this and gasped. Silver Spot. Her hand twitched. I saw it. Silver Spot's eyes widened because she had noticed it too. Saberclaw's eyes sparked to life, and their green glow returned just as strong as it was before. Her chest jerked upwards a little, but then fell back to the ground. The green robot caught herself by placing her hand right beside her chest and slowly lowered herself back onto the ground. Iron Stripe shot up and clapped his hands together in celebration as Saberclaw looked up at Silver Spot, who was now smiling as wide as she possibly could. Silver Spot didn't let her happiness for Saberclaw's survival distract her, however. Saberclaw was still weak and couldn't stand on her own. Silver Spot walked around to Saberclaw's side and put the weak robot's arm around her shoulders in order to help Saberclaw stand. Saberclaw managed to stand up with the help of Silver Spot and said weakly, "Thanks for helping me, Silver." Silver Spot helped Saberclaw walk through the series of tunnels and out the mouth of the cave as the others followed. Silver Spot let go of Saberclaw, and they both sat on a long boulder outside of the cave. Iron Stripe and the humans were still excited and were messing around in the clearing in front of the cave. Silver Spot looked at Saberclaw's leg and saw that the little lines were now gone, but the scar from the bite was still there. "You'll be all right, Saberclaw. You will fully recover in a few days, but you will always have that scar." Saberclaw looked at Silver Spot and smiled. "I don't mind a battle scar, but what I am really confused about is why you helped me. You and Iron Stripe could have just walked away and gone back to wherever you came from. I even tried to kill you, but you still helped me." Saberclaw was genuinely confused because if it were her, she probably wouldn't have helped. Silver Spot looked at the mountains that rose over the trees and felt the wind on her face as she closed her eyes and answered, "Saberclaw, you are young. You will learn that not everyone is your friend, but some people will help you whenever you need it, even if they don't know you. I think you have a lot of potential. Also, evil acts like leaving someone to die is what Iron Stripe and I are trying to run away from." Silver Spot, unaware of how extreme her words were and the advice she had just given, continued to casually enjoy the breeze. Saberclaw stared at her, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Silver Spot's expression hardened as she asked, "I suppose you don't know who Rebay is?" Saberclaw shook her head, showing that she had no idea who Rebay was. Silver Spot answered, "Rebay is an extraterrestrial queen who wants to conquer everyone in the universe and doesn't care who she has to kill in order to do it. She is currently outside Earth's atmosphere, but recently took an expedition to Earth. She didn't tell me how it went, though." Saberclaw's face turned livid. "Yeah, I remember that rotten extraterrestrial. She invaded our base and nearly killed the humans and I on that little expedition you're talking about." Saberclaw looked down at her leg. It still hurt quite a bit, but she wasn't worried about it. Silver Spot seemed to pity Saberclaw as she apologized. "I'm sorry for her actions, but I actually used to be Rebaya's top medic. She found us after our creator fired Iron Stripe and I into space." She glanced at Sam with disgust and then looked back at Saberclaw as she continued. "She took us in and convinced us that what she was doing to the planets she came across in her violent conquest was right. That is how she got us to trust her and work for her. Iron Stripe has killed thousands for her and imprisoned many more, because she brainwashed us into thinking that she was a queen who could do no wrong. However, I'm not entirely sure if she literally brainwashed us or not. She shrugged, as if her words meant almost nothing. Silver Spot looked at Iron Stripe with guilt and pity in her eyes. Now he has to live with the weight of his victims' deaths. However, I managed to see the truth behind what she told us and revealed it to him once we became partners. Ribe eventually found out we weren't loyal to her anymore and locked us up in the same prison as her victims. However, we managed to escape and stole an escape pod that took us here. Silver Spot finished talking and looked at Saberclaw for her response. Saberclaw just stared at the shining, silver robot sitting in front of her and let her mouth fall open in surprise. Silver Spot had been through so much and Saberclaw literally didn't know how to respond, so she just let Silver Spot keep talking. The Shadow Killer definitely got here by our escape pod, but I don't know how it got in there in the first place. It would have had to be planted in the pod, but Ribe didn't even know we were going to escape. Well, it doesn't matter now, because you are alive and it is dead. She smiled and touched Saberclaw's arm. So, where do you and the humans call home? Saberclaw blinked. Did she want to stay with them? Why? Did she just want to visit? Saberclaw had a storm of thoughts swirling through her mind as she told Silverspit that they had a base in Mr. Carolee's hangar that should be pretty much repaired by now. Good. Is it possible that you can make room for 2 more? Iron Stripe, and I don't really have anywhere else to go, so Silverspit was interrupted by Lila entering the conversation. Of course you can stay with us. We can have a mega robot slumber party. She squealed with joy as all 3 of the bots exchanged looks that all asked the same question. What's a slumber party?